Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to tell you it's a real pleasure to be in front of coaches. It's not an easy thing to do to speak in front of a lot of people, but when you know it's coaches, it's actually a lot easier. I also wanted to really thank FINA for the tribute they just done to Christian Donzer, my technical director, the person that gave me my chance as a coach, that believed in me 5 years ago, and also he was a very special person for Florent Manaudou, my athletes, the athletes I'm working with. He's been taking care of him ever since he was a young swimmer all the way. So I really want to dedicate this presentation and the performance Florent did in the Olympics to Christian that left us 1 week ago. I'm a former swimmer, and I had the privilege to go and swim in the United States for a university called Auburn University, where swimming is really, really important. It's a small place, about 30 to 50,000 people, but it bleeds swimming there, and I had the chance to work with several amazing coaches. And the whole time I was swimming in Auburn, I was also part of the French team, also surrounded with great coaches. So this pretty much is where I learned swimming. More than books or anything else was really on deck. This is my first coaching career. I stopped swimming in 2005, and I started coaching my hometown where I was born, where I learned how to swim in Marseilles. And I've been working with the French national team now for the past 4 years, since 2009. Rome World Championship was my first competition. And the major influences in my coaching philosophy are David March, like the art of coaching sprinters. There is, to me, as a coach, two ways of doing things: a scientific way or an artistic way, or a combination. And really, David has influenced me to push my art side of coaching. And I will explain more a little bit later. David Durden now was a coach at Auburn also. He's now coaching California. He's in charge of Nathan Adrian, Anthony Irving. Nathan Adrian won gold medal at the Olympics in 100 freestyle. And he really has a true passion for speed. And it's really something I learned from him. No matter the distance, if it's just a 10-meter, the race is a race. He just loves fast swimming. And he really gives the swimmer a lot of energy when it's about fast swimming. And I really try to do that also. And also someone that I've met less, but it's still influenced me a lot. Some of the coaches here know him, I'm sure. John T. Skinner. I got to work with him when he was in the US, and after that when he was in Britain, and we extensively talked about freestyle, and I think that's probably something you'd be interested in. 2008, 2009, when the suits came in, angle of the elbow, use of the shoulder, strength, leverage, platform. He's given me a lot of things to think about in sprinting, and I've really used John T's approach to freestyle that I think was about 10 years ahead of its time when he knew about it, about 2000. I work in an amazing place in Marseille. I invite you to come if you ever get a chance. It's right on the ocean. Thanks to the performance of some of the swimmers I coach and the great staff I work with, we have become a high-performance training center in 2010. It's a small group of 15 swimmers, all elite swimmers, all professional swimmers, French swimming. Christian, if he was here to talk about it, we're fortunate to be able to help financially the swimmers through our club team system, and that really helps keeping athletes for a long time in the sport. Best example will be Romain Barnier, that was Olympic champion in 2008. His best performance came when he was 26. His first national team was when he was like 25. And really, I think being able to make a lot of money before that, not a whole lot, but support himself while swimming, kept him in the sport and gave France a gold medal. We had 10 qualified from Marseille at the World Championships, and we came out with 10 medals, including relays. And at the Olympics, we had 11 swimmers training together every day, came out with 5 medals. I kind of like, because the FINA has asked me to come here to speak about sprinting, and sprinting is very different, I think, than the rest of some of the event in swimming. And it says sprint swimming and sprint coaching are for some of the most exciting moments of our sport. Some sprinters like to say that their races are more exciting to watch than the others. I don't agree, but some athletes think that. However, if taken out of context and not allowed to dominate the sport, it can significantly limit an athlete's career. And that's really something that's from David Marsh that I talked with Florent Manaudou about, because I've been working with athletes for 2 years now, and the first thing he said when he came to me, I know he can swim all 4 strokes, and he said, I want to come swim for you, with your staff, but one thing I don't want to do is 200 IM. Every coach I've met in France, because I can do all 4 strokes, have been telling me I can be a 200 IMer. I hate the 200 IM. I want to be a sprinter. So there's 2 options here. Either I say I'm not interested because I don't like this kind of thinking, or my philosophy is to work with the athlete's dream. He wants to be a sprinter, it's fine, but I also want to tell him that long term, not just the 50 freestyle, but more advanced. I want to move into the 100 freestyle. But I agree with him that the 200 IM is something he will never do. Talking a little bit about Florent. Florent is a young athlete. He's 21 years old. He's a strong, tall, strong athlete. He's, like I said, very good in all 4 strokes. He was first a backstroker, then a butterflyer, and not very serious about swimming until about 2 years ago. And decided to join us right after making the French national team in March of 2011. He qualified for the 50 butterfly and decided to join us. We had a very short period of time to prepare for the Olympics. It was not really our goal to be Olympic champion. It was his probably, or his dream, but it wasn't mine. I thought 17 months is a very short time. And I know Graham, that will speak after me, will talk about fate and destiny. I think for Florent, when you look at his year, he made the Olympics by 1/100 of a second, and he was nowhere near in contention for making the gold, and ended up dropping an amazing amount of time at the Olympics and winning gold medal. So I also think that his dream or his destiny was to win that event. He knew it. I didn't know, but I don't think it happened by accident. Training history. Before Florent came to us, he was training with his brother. He was doing, which I think was pretty smart, a lot of aerobic swimming in all 4 strokes in training, but he was racing short events. Usually when we train for long events, we race for long events, but he agreed with his brother to train for the long events as long as he could race in the short events, and I thought that would be pretty interesting to think about. He really wanted to be a sprinter. His brother really wanted him to do the 200 IM, probably the reason why he left his brother. Did very little amount of dry land training, which when I'll speak about what we've done with Florent was a real great opportunity for us to make him better. A lot of upper body emphasis, and I think to be a sprinter you really have to be good everywhere and put a lot of emphasis also on the lower body. And but the one great thing they've done for a sprinter is they extensively work on start, to a point where when Florent came to the program, we had some of the best swimmers in the world already. Frédéric Bousquet, Fabien Gillot, swimmers swimming 21 seconds in a 50 freestyle. And the first time they start racing flow in training, the problem was he was half a body length ahead of every start. So that was something that we never really had to work on, more something that I was interested in understanding how he did it. Was it only natural talent, or was it also because he had a special approach to it? And I will tell you one thing. I think on the start, and that's something I tell the coaches I work with, and that could be interesting, is there's not one way to become someone good at something. And Florent demonstrates every day how he became good at his start. He doesn't train start like normal coaches when we coach starts, which is doing 10, 15 starts after training, before training, using video, using anything. He found one thing about the start that he loved is the angle of entry in the water. And every time he gets in the water, before practice, during some sprinting events, after practice, he always looks for the angle, no matter what the starting position is. He plays and try to accelerate when he gets in the water. It's not much, but it's 3 or 4 starts every time, every day, twice a day. Comes up to more to more great starts than than if you train for it and really try to accomplish something. And talking to him about it, that made me think about, I know Bob Bowman will be speaking tomorrow, and I had the privilege to watch Michael Phelps do something to me that's very interesting at swim meets I've watched him and I never noticed he was stretching after or before getting in the water. I mean stretching like a lot of swimmers do when they're on deck. They come in and for 15-20 minutes they warm up and they stretch. But if you notice and if you watch Michael Phelps acts when he's on deck, he's stretching constantly. Every second he's on deck, every minute he's talking to his coach, his physio, anyone, other athletes, he's stretching one part of his body. And so with Florent, I really addressed that. And when I think it was his key to get better and to have the best start at the Olympics, I really told him for the whole year, that one time when you're going to dive with a bad angle. And really, the key to the final, that Olympic final, was the angle, the way he hit the water. Got him a little bit ahead of the competition. He felt the speed off the dive, and I think that really helped him. Our training philosophy in Marseilles, we have several different groups because it's hard to, it's also something I learned from Auburn University. It's hard to mix sprinters that train for one event, where a lot of it could be games to make them faster, and people training more for 200 and 400 events. For everyone, it's the same philosophy, but for the sprinters, it's a little bit different. We train to race. It's really, and I will tell you, I think for me, and when I was in France, when I grew up, even for sprinters, there was a lot of train for train that are not related to the event. With Florent, we try to train very slow, very fast, and to avoid anything that's in between. Florent either swims really slow or really fast, and never swims the 105, 102, 1 minute in training. I ask him to go around 55 or 53, 400 freestyle in training, or the 112, 115 with great technique. Speed is his #1 priority, obviously. Emphasis is placed on his strength, not only his weaknesses. I found out that with some sprinters, when you stress weaknesses, they don't like it too much. So I really emphasize everything on his strength and try to address the weaknesses. But in the French culture, when I tell 9 good things to one of my swimmers and 1 bad thing, he will only remember the 1 bad thing I tell him. So I make sometimes, and it's hard, and it's something that I think I've improved over the years. I keep the bad thing for me, and I address it at a different time or when I think, and I try really to focus on positive on coaching. We do an extended amount of technique work. We love technique work. The athletes love it. We spend probably 20% of training time or 30% of training time on technique work without structure inside the workout, where it's free time for the swimmer. We tell them there's a clock that runs, and it says for the next 30 minutes they are yours. We almost do it once a day for a while until we feel very comfortable with it. Then it comes down to 20 minutes, but it's there all the time. It's their free time. With those guys, I was telling you, I think games is a good way to make them better. And although it could be sometimes difficult to manage, to have some 8 to 10 guys having fun in the water, I think it's also a good way. So if you look at one of our practices, it's very, very different. You will have a structure part of the practice, and then all of a sudden it will turn into something that's very low-key. Athletes interact with each other, coach each other, peer coaching, and then we go back maybe to some normal coaching after that. Like I said, Florent came to us April. We had 17 months. We also we put a strong emphasis on dry land. And I've noticed with the athletes that I've worked before that when I work with an athlete, it usually takes about 18 months to start seeing the connection between the work outside the water and the work in the water. So really, and with Florent, it was really out of the contention for the medal at the Olympics. So we figured we would go for the long-term athlete development, which is LTAD. We gave him a full introduction to dryland training, and really, I wish I could have videos. I don't have them with me, but show you videos of Florent Manaudou swimming before he came to Marseille. It's really raw talent, but it wasn't very pretty to watch in the water. And because of that opportunity we had for him to race at World Championships in 2011, we figured racing experience could be a good thing for him to learn that summer. So we went with technique, introduction to triathlon, the very light summer, and really learning the tools to start training for the year after. September to December, we did a lot more lower body emphasis. We identified that he was super strong on the upper body, super weak on the legs. Although he had a good start, his legs in the water weren't very good. Wanted to maintain his aerobic capacity because the training is done with his brothers. Florent is, for a sprinter, he can train, he can do some good things. He can finish some 200 freestyle at the end of a set, 2 minutes long course. Nowhere near what Chad probably can do, but for a sprinter, it's pretty good. And with not a whole lot of yardage, but something that we keep building the athletes and not just turning towards sprinting yet. So really it was the key the whole year. The key was, the question in September was, he's expressed his wish to swim freestyle. He was a butterflyer. So we did a little bit of technique freestyle. Of course I knew the key to a fast 50 freestyle, we'll tell you after. But I didn't want to give it to him yet. I really want him to train on the normal technique, high hands, high elbows, stroke efficiency, working on the 100 freestyle. I thought he had a shot at making the 400 freestyle relay, and I thought it'd be more interesting to be part of that relay to build the experience for the next 4 years. And then, so we really worked on that the whole year. Long-term athlete development through September, December, January, March. March was trials. We didn't really prepare for trials. Gave him a couple of weeks off, but didn't really prepare. And he swam his 50 freestyle according to the training he had. He barely made it more natural talent than training. He swam 21.86 with 39 strokes. Very inefficient when you look at what the rest of the world does in that event. His first 35 meters was great, but the last 15 meters he probably took like 15 to 20 strokes in the last 15 meters. We still went back to normal training, and we had a clash after around month of May when he was training for the Olympics, and he didn't understand. I was still coaching him the same way, and he could understand I'm not coaching him for a 50 freestyle. He was with a group of swimmers getting ready for longer events, 100 freestyle, and he was telling me, it's my one opportunity to become Olympic champion, and you're not coaching me for it. So he said it a couple times until I was always answering the same thing. I said, it's good that you have a dream, but maybe keep it for the next 5 years. Right now we're working on the long term. I wasn't really listening to him. And one day he clashed. He just said, I want to change training. So I told him, okay, we've got 4 weeks before it's June, before we change the cycle. If you train well for the next 4 weeks, if you do what I ask for the next 4 weeks, I'll give you the key to become an Olympic champion. And it was enough for him, because he was still a kid. He believed me, and right after we had a meet in Rome, a big meet in Rome in June. He swam pretty well there. He came second to Cesar Cielo there in the 50 freestyle. And right after, I had a speech with him in the hotel, and I remember he was waiting for that key because he thought I was going to give him the key to become the Olympic champion. And I started by telling him, in 6 weeks, I'm not sure you will get it, but I will tell you, we're going to change your technique 6 weeks out, which I know is not something we're supposed to do. He was swimming with a bent arm, bent elbows, and we decided to go with a straight arm outside the water, but more importantly, straight arm underwater, using more his shoulder. And the reason I did it was, like I said, I really wanted to keep him his long-term career going, so I kept it to the last minute. And also, I know that Florent was not going to win the Olympics if we didn't have anything special going into the Olympics, something that would, in his mind, change his major problem as a swimmer. He was always in front. Every races he would do because of his start, and he was always someone will catch him in the end because he'd start spinning, he'd start swimming short. And I told myself it's not worth telling him early and and having him finishing 4th or 5th. So I was thinking, if I do it well for the last 6 weeks, if I give him this new tool, first of all, he's going to get really engaged on that and not think too much about the Olympics. And also, I'll have something to tell him right before the Olympics. He was 21.8 on the old technique, and if we train well on it, I will convince him that he can become the best at this event. So that's pretty much the idea. The idea was more for the athletes to change his way of thinking for the last 6 weeks and approach the Olympics focusing on technique and believing, whether it was true or not, that because of this technique he was going to win the event, because I really realized 6 weeks out that it's been his dream for more than 20 years. I've given you a few examples of typical training weeks. This is the pre-season. We go from September until December. Like you can see, the blue part is swimming. When it's blue, it's easy. When it's purple, it's more engaged, because I don't know if there's anything really hard in what we do, in the sense that if you take off all middle pace, that's sometimes hard in swimming. And since the fast swimming is not very long, I don't consider it very hard. The swimmers like it. They think it's hard, but I don't think it's that hard. For 3 months, we do a majority of dry land. We swim once a day. That's a typical week for sprinters. Circuit training, cross training is something we use that's a little bit shorter, but that's very intense. Different type of work. Circuit training are long. They will last about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. They're really like cardio, aerobic training. We put speed early on. Something I learned when I was in the US. I mean, there's never a time for sprinters when we don't address speed. And we work hard for 2 days, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesdays, shorter, easier. We train hard Thursday, Friday. I put the days in purple at the top, which means because the biking is also long. Swimmers in Marseille used to bike between 50 and 100K on the bike on the mountains around the area. I was telling you, lower body emphasis. So we do biking also, so which means this time of the year, they're really training. They don't spend a whole lot of time in the water, but their days are 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. We moved to January to March. This was the time right before trials. More swimming going on. Easy swimming on Monday morning, pretty much always easy getting into the week. Aerobic training, the technique part that we said, find your technique for the week. Some race strategy, tempo, stroke efficiency, everything that's related to the race, train to race. We do weights in the afternoon, and then we kick after weights so we don't swim too much with bad technique. Rests Tuesday morning, weights again. Very easy swimming after weights, weights being the priority. Some technique Friday morning. Easy speed, which means they're swimming fast but not 100%. In the afternoon, though, it's top end speed. It's a lot of dives and a lot of swimming fast. Work on the number 2 strokes. Rest Thursday morning, easy aerobic with weights. And then again, a very hard day on Friday, top end speed, and then weights and a hard kick set again. And more easy aerobic on Saturday. After trials, we went to, it's pretty much the same week. Like I said, we really keep a routine on that. And the only thing that changes is the Saturday becomes harder, so you don't really have 48 hours to recover on the weekend. Same philosophy, so for 6 months he really pretty much did the same, nothing really related to his 50 freestyle at the Olympics. And finally the championship season is towards the end, the last run to the Olympics. We start with weights in the morning. What we try to do on that season is to never do weights before we do some fast or hard swimming. So we keep the nervous system fresh when they're swimming. And for Friday morning, the sessions are a lot shorter, obviously, somewhere around 1 hour in the water. And for Friday morning, the session is only 20 minutes. That's one thing I really love. We call top end speed and easy speed. I will show you an example of the session. It's probably You get in for a 200-meter warm-up, you sprint 8, 10, 12 sprints right after weights, and you finish for that morning. So like I said, specific training keys on Florent at the beginning. Things we changed was to work on the really high hands, really play with the hands at the surface, bend the elbow, and try to work with use some stroke efficiency and to not spend any energy on the catch and the pull, so you can swim more aerobic work on this. Introduced continuous legs. Florent, some swimmers do that. He was crossing over his legs in training, so I really asked him to start using continuous legs in training. That took quite a bit of time. Improved stroke efficiency means we do some games. I challenge Florent. He can do some amazing things. Like if you put a pair of fins on, Florent can do some 50 freestyle under FINA rules, which is out before the 15 meters underwater, with about 12 strokes and swimming 21 seconds or 20 seconds with fins on. So he's really engaging his legs, using amazing amount of power. Things like that we translate to racing after. Relaxed recovery and low breath. Like I said, I hope that Florent will move up to the 100 freestyle pretty soon, start improving our French relay, and also start competing against the best swimmers in the 100 freestyle. And his breathing was all over the place, so really focusing on a narrow and small breath to really help the connection and the continuous legs and his hands to be stable in the front. So six weeks before the Olympics, we decided to move Florent to the straight arm. Of course, it's a tribute to Frédéric Bousquet. Fred Bousquet is his brother-in-law, because Fred is married to Florent's sister. But Fred was also, and more importantly, Fred was a swimmer that swam in 2010. In short, swam 21:36 in the 50 freestyle. I had the chance to work with him in the preparation of that performance. And I learned a lot. Freddie is like some swimmers before, pretty much. Michael Klim was also there in a straight arm around 2000. But to me, Freddie is really opened my eyes. He's invented it in himself, the straight arm and really a straight catch, a very deep catch. He's almost trying to touch the bottom of the pool with his catch, and it's giving you a huge amount of power when you swim. It also creates a lot of problems, and not everyone can swim with a straight arm. Swimmers have tried it, and it really requires an extensive amount of strength in your core. The more leverage you put in your swimming, the more instability you can create. And really, Fred was really good at holding that. And the idea, when I told Florent that was the straight arm, it was like, but I told him the problem is you might not be strong enough, because Fred was strong enough, but you might not be strong enough. That's exactly what I needed to tell him to convince him to do it, because he works like that. He's a competitor. So the key to this technique is a stable platform, the core. No up and down movement when we coach it, slow or fast. You don't press on the water. You have to find a way to come in straight arm, but to move forward without going up or down. And it's pretty much straight arm. You don't bend your elbow anymore. And the goal is to have a high connectivity between both arms and the core using a very deep catch and controlling the tempo. Because it's hard when you start moving to the straight arm, it's hard to have a good tempo. Florent was swimming, when he started moving to the straight arm, his tempo slowed down. And what he was gaining in strength, he was losing in tempo, so we only had 6 weeks and we had to address it. Like I said, specific training keys, dryland. We do a lot of work on dryland. I think in France it was a big change to French swimming. I came in and started coaching, right? The suits were around. There's still textile, but the suits were around. And in Auburn, when I was there, we do some dryland training. And I believe that, to me, my first goal was to start winning in France, because I started in France, and we really put dryland at the heart of our program, because I knew no one else was doing it, and it would give us an advantage. And when we try to maintain strengths, we do 3 times a week, which is pretty much what everyone else does. But there's not a day we don't do a dryland exercise. These are the main weights, but we do core, we do abs, we do a lot of dryland, and we're being very creative. We have 2 strengths coach working with our program, not 1 but 2, because it's also my philosophy as a coach. I don't coach myself, I coach with other coaches. We share our brains to make the swimmers better. I have 2 assistant coaches working with me, and there's 2 coaches so they can interact and be more creative and be more like, I like the artistic side of things, and really something interesting to watch. The athletes have become really good, especially on the proprioception. I don't know how you say it in English, but it's almost like a circus sometimes. For a half hour they can stand on balls and do some really good exercise, and very good with agility work. Like I said, no secrets to the session. That 20-minute session is something very simple. I think the key to this session is something I learned in Auburn. The key to this session is that it's 20 minutes, because that's all there is to it. The swimmer comes in, first of all, he's really excited to come in for only 20 minutes. Most of these swimmers have been swimming for about 15 to 20 years, and they're really excited. They're really going to engage on it. And if you're going to address speed that day, I don't think and if you've done 1 hour of weights before, I don't think you already won. And I don't think swimming slow before for 20 minutes helps, and swimming after, I don't think that helps. I think it kills what you try to accomplish in that sprinting session. So I'm not inventing anything here. It's something that's been done with the Auburn sprinters for a long time, and something we're using, and it's just something simple that is working. So depending on where we are in the season, there are many different sessions. I just put one that was basic, and depending where we are in the season, the only difference between those sessions are the rest you put in between, or the intensity you ask on the sprinting. But you can do a lot of things, especially when you have a group of sprinters, and the racing and the excitement and the energy is very good. One thing you don't want is to have another group training next to it when you do it, because it's really wavy, really loud. And now going to the race of Florent. I just gave you some information, I think, that were pretty interesting. He was 15 meters on the underwater, and surprisingly, we've known, and Michael has shown the way in 2007, Michael Phelps, by saying that underwater is faster than above the water. When I looked at the race, I was surprised he was the only one going to 15. Everyone was out around some. For Anthony, he was out very early, Anthony Irvin. For the other guys, they were out around 10 or 11. I think Florent was the only one to really take full advantage of the 15 meter. His time at the 25 was, I think, pretty fast from a real start, 9.72. But not something different than what he's done before. His second 25, that was a lot better, 11.62. That's really where the drop came from. From 21.8, his best time, to 21.3. He's never came back into 12 seconds before that final. And frequency is normal, so around 60 for a 50 freestyle. And the strokes went down from, his best time in March was 39. We were training a lot more. That's really one thing I want to stress in this presentation. I was training a lot more with Florent for 7 months, and it took him 39 strokes to go 21.8. I trained a lot less going into the Olympics, and it took him 34 strokes to go 21.3. So because I'm talking about sprinting, and maybe one message that's important for you is there's not one way to do things. And one thing I've learned with some of my athletes, I'm not afraid to do less. Of course, everything I'm telling you it really relates to one talented athlete. I could do the same thing with the other guys. I didn't swim 21.3. You know, we have to be fortunate and have to have some athletes that are more talented than the others to get on stage here, because I realize it's not only what we do, it's also the talent of the athletes. But if I can have one message for some probably European coaches, I know in the US it's changed a little bit, but I've been in Europe for a long time. Sometimes we do too much compared to what other sports do, track and field for sprinting. And regarding sprinting, I think sometimes it's good to play with a little bit less than a little bit more. I think I have to go to the questions. That was the cue. Thank you. So if, okay.
Please, some questions.
Вы считаете, что вам все-таки повезло с Флораном? Он талантливый? Или вы можете взять так любого пловца и с ним готовиться?
I think I was lucky, Florent, because I've never coached anyone else to an Olympic gold medal. I hope I will in the future, but right now
Скажите, пожалуйста, почему Флоран выбрал именно ваш клуб? Почему не остался тренироваться со своим братом?
I knew I was coaching his sister, and in a very hard part of her career. Her sister won Olympic gold in 2004. She was training under Philippe Lucas, and I think one thing he liked about me was I was open-minded. I was helping his sister, and he could see that I'm not the kind of coach that's interested in the results of the athletes or the fame that come with it, but more into what I can learn from the athletes. I learned a great deal from Laure, because even though she didn't swim really fast under my guidance, she still taught me a lot of things that I'm using for the other swimmers. And I've met Florent many times, and I think I was one of the only coach in France that never told him that it was a shame he wasn't training hard enough, that he should do the 200 IM, that he should do many things in swimming. I just told him once, I think, that I hope that one day he will show what he's capable of, because everyone in France knew he was talented. And I just told him once, so he called me 18 months before the Olympics, and he said, I want to have breakfast with you, I'm in Marseille. And he said, why have you never asked me to come swim for you? I said, because I don't want to do that. I believe that if you ask a swimmer to come swim for you, 50% of the working relationship is not going to be good. When the swimmer asks, you can work on a different ground. He's came to you, and we can work better then.
Excusez-moi, je voudrais juste vous poser cette question, s'il y a une possibilité de trouver votre exposé, parce que c'est fait en anglais. Moi, je suis des Comores, ça me fait très difficile de prendre des notes, mais si c'est possible, à ce que je puisse les avoir en français, si c'est possible.
Oui, ce sera possible si vous voulez. Je ne sais pas comment on peut faire pour ça et les transmettre, mais je peux vous les traduire sans problème. Je l'avais fait en français au départ avant de la faire en anglais. Je ne savais pas dans quelle langue ça serait.
Merci.
Donc, si vous voulez, après la présentation, échanger les emails, je vous l'enverrai.
Merci bien.
Mostly the new technique, but we cut it with a lot of backstroke, so he didn't have to swim. At the end, it gave him a lot of freedom, which is the distances he had to swim in training. But I told him, you engage on freestyle. When you feel like it's too demanding at the beginning, or it's too hard to do, or you switch to backstroke. So, and also I liked it because that's what I like. Coming close to a meet, you don't have set things, you can't go wrong. The swimmers have a bit more freedom in the workout was the workout, but he was really making his own feeling on the workout rather than me coaching it all.
Was there, talk about the angle of its entry on its diet, was there a specific number of degrees that you were working to get consistent that?
I think every special athlete has a special thing. I think he's got sensors to know when it's good. He has a very different start, like it's different than the others. He hits it with a really steep angle, and still he doesn't change right away. He's got good dolphin kick after, so of course his angle is not appropriate for any swimmer because he can go to 15 meters with great amount of speed on the dolphin kicking, but it's always around the same angle. Sometimes I don't even see the difference, even when we watch the video, and he's going to tell me this one's good and this one's not good. It feels fast, and he really, when he gets out and he knows, not fast, he's trying a little steeper, a little less, and when he hits it. And at meets, it's really all he talks about, and when he hits it, his whole race just flows after that. No, we didn't go scientific about it, not at all. I mean, he's pretty much, this is his thing. It's feel.
Велосипед – это довольно нетрадиционное средство тренировки пловцов. Скажите, пожалуйста, какие цели вы преследовали, используя велосипед в подготовке ваших спортсменов?
Bike? The really good thing about biking, when you coach a group, the really good thing is it changes the dynamic of the group. Some of the bad swimmers can be good bikers, and for once in the group they can be in front and be leaders. So I also really like that, put them in different environment, so it creates the group dynamic, because we really also work on the group dynamic. And also when you're facing a steep mountain, humility is good, so it's always good for the athletes to be reminded that to be humble is good. So the mountain does that for us. Okay.
One more question, please.
Probably there was 10 competition, I would say, exactly around 10. So 20 times with prelims and finals, but a lot of them were pretty fast for him. So he started the year. His best time was 22:3, 22:30, and his first race of the year he went 22:30, and he went 22:30 all the way to trials, almost every meet. Then dropped down to 21:8, and then in the summer he swam 22:1 every race. For the afternoon for the finals, and went 21:3 at the end. So he's done about 20 50s in the races. But we do a lot of 50s in training with pads and timing system and everything. So he's done many more.
Thank you very much. We have a gift. Thank you very much, Romain, for this approach, scientific and also artistic. I very love too much this words, scientific and artistic. Thank you.